Are you in a position where you're defined by your age, and that's limiting you to pursue a dream or goal you want to accomplish? The More Than Your Age podcast is about having conversations with women who fully live their lives without being dictated or defined by their age. This is a space to encourage women who feel blocked to pursue a dream or goal based on their life circumstances. Welcome to the More Than Your Age podcast. I am your host, Erica Pasbard. Let's start living life fully and become more than your age.
Niccole Nelson, thank you so much for joining me today on the More Than Your Age podcast.
Thank you for having me, Erica. I'm so excited to be here.
Man, Niccole, I'm so thankful to have you here. You have been through a lot. You just everything you shared with me, I know that's just like a little bit of a huge spectrum. And there's so much to go through. And the thing, too, that just attracted me to you, we saw each other. It was a Sarah Blakely post, wasn't it?
Yes. And funny enough, I wore this T-shirt in honor of her because I bought it because she wore it on one of her posts. I said, well, I'm going to honor her and wear the T-shirt.
That's
so
awesome.
Where we?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I saw what you wrote. And it was so funny because I reached out to you and then you shared so much more. And I was like, whoa, Niccole. You have been through some things. And so just in your life of what the brief that I know, it's proof that you are more than your age and you are more than your life circumstances. And there's, like I just said too, there's a lot to get into. And I want you to start off and have you share about the moment when you were 12 years old. You walked into your 6th grade classroom, kissed your mom goodbye, and then that night lived with complete strangers.
Yeah.
At what point in the day did you know that you weren't going home? And just tell us kind of what happened.
So, okay, my mom, unfortunately, was a heroin addict at the time. And one of my best friends who lived across the street, her mom, doing what she believed was the right thing, which it was not a healthy environment, no matter how much my mother loved me. However, that day, I go to school. I'm on the honor roll, so I never usually get called to the principal's office or anything like that. And over the loudspeaker, they're like, can we have Nicole Frazier, was my name at birth, come to the principal's office. And as I come down the stairs from my school, the front of the school is all glass, so you can see right out to the front. That's when I saw the Protective Service state car outside and my 2 little brothers in the back seat. And in my head, I'm like, okay, something's not right here. Why are my brothers at my school that don't go here? By the time I got to the principal's office, I knew what was going on. What I didn't know was we would be leaving my mother that day. Like we would never be going back home. So we go through the explaining and you're going to come with us, blah, blah, blah. We leave and we go to the CPS office. And literally that day once they do all their paperwork, me and my brothers are walking with the social workers to the vehicles, but we're all going in different vehicles. So we're not even together. That's literally the last day. So that night, I move in with these 2 elderly foster parents that I've never known, never met, and didn't know. Like, it wasn't like a preemptive of like, they'd been visiting our home or I was aware that it was an issue or a problem. We were living our lives, whatever that might have looked like. And then that day, everything changed. And that night, I literally was just sitting in my first foster home, rocking and crying, Lord, please, somebody help me, somebody help me. And I didn't even know God at the time. I'm grateful to know him now. But like I say in my book, at the time I was praying to a God I had yet to meet because I didn't know, what do you do on all out? My only focus from 12 till all my teenage years was just to get back to my mom. I just wanted to get back to my mom. So, yeah, that was the planted seed, I guess, of like identity crisis and figuring out now who do I belong to? Who am I? What is happening to me? And where am I going from here? Because everything that I had known, brothers, mother, school, life, I was literally in a whole nother neighborhood and unbeknownst to me of what was next for me.
Wow. So that night when you went to this elderly couple's home and your siblings were elsewhere, you're sitting there and you're crying. Of course you are. Everything has been stripped from you. How how long were you with this family? And then were you able to see your siblings, or what did that look like?
I want to say it was probably about a year, maybe. My timing might be a little off, but the workers had found my brothers, so they knew where their placement was. So I got to go visit, and I was like, they were like, "Do you want to visit your brothers?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I'm the oldest and the only girl, so the protector, the mother, and me. I've been mothering since I was 3 years old. So I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So we go visit. I get to see them, have dinner, hang out, and I go back home. Weeks, months maybe go by, and their foster mother, Miss Nelson, asked the workers if they would ask me if I wanted to come and live with her.
Oh.
So in my head, I'm like, yes, like I get to be back with my brothers now. Like this is a no-brainer. Even at 12 or 13 years old, I'm like, it's a no-brainer. And we get there, and I'm like, okay, so now second foster home where I ended up being adopted, but me and my brothers are like celebrating and like, oh my God, we a family again. I'm so glad to be back with y'all. And she leans over and goes, "This is not a family. This is a business." Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, what did I get myself into? So, and she had a foster care ring, and, she had cousins and family members and sisters that she had recruited to get foster kids, and they were, getting multiple kids, and they knew what kind of houses to buy to have enough room to get this. And the kids with handicaps, they paid more money. So after she adopted me and my two brothers, she only would get foster kids that had either a mental or physical disability because they paid more money for those kids. So yeah, but it's a whole thing.
Oh my
Huge.
gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking about you, your siblings, and then all the other children that are under this business and what that even looks like. I mean, you even said too, there was this identity crisis, all of this. Like, there's so much to go there. I'm just even thinking what to ask you now, Niccole, because that's a lot. I mean, so because they eventually adopted you, did you ever feel like this was a family, or because she said to you, "Nah, this is business"?
Well, I don't know. I can't say that I'm not fat. Like, she had 7 children of her own, and we became the youngest of the family. Everybody was older than us. I have a sister that's the same age as me. So other than her being like the same age as me, her birthday in March, my birthday in May. So we played the twin thing a lot because we actually do kind of favor. But I felt cared for by my other siblings or whatever, but I didn't ever feel loved. And having a sense of belonging. Because one, you go through the abandonment issues, being taken away from my mom. My dad was already not really a regular in my life. We have a better relationship now, but at that time, I didn't really see my dad anyway growing up at all. So then you with somebody who she adopted us, but I never felt like she loved me. So even though, people are like, well, did she adopted you? Like, why wouldn't she? Like, it doesn't seem like she would have adopted you. But I don't know if in the back of her mind, that was some type of scheme or plan for having us. And then, like I said, once she adopted us, she moved into getting more kids who had more traumatic experiences or front-facing deficiencies or whatever. So I don't think it was, I love them, I'm going to keep them. Mm-hmm. I just think we were placed long enough that, and maybe somewhere in her, because in my book I do write, I wish that I knew who she was before the pain got in. Because maybe there was a part of her that loved, because the day she died was the first day she set me on her lap and told me she loved me. And then she died that day. So, and I was, I think 18 going on 19 or 19.
Oh, my goodness. So you're still very young.
Yeah. So that was the day she died. And I don't know if I can't speak to the sincerity of her motives or whatever, because I never really saw anything I'm not saying every day was complete abuse, but when you're in fight or flight the whole time of 8 years of living with somebody, you don't realize how that impacts you mentally until you go back and look at like what you lived through, how you came through it or whatever. But there was never a time where I was just like, maybe this could work. And then surprise, no, it's not. It just was always, I'm on my toes. I'm always prepared. That's how I developed the people pleaser and all the things, because I was always just, nothing I ever did for her was good enough. If I got good grades, I thought I was better than everybody else. If I was failing, I was a dumb, insert explicit here. If I was hanging out with guys, I wanted to be a slut. If I was hanging out with girls, now do I want to be a dyke? Like, it was just all these type of things that she would say to me. So it's just like nothing ever was like monotone, or, like I said, I had a sister the same age as me. So when prom came, she took her shopping, got her the dress she wanted. She was able to get her driver's license when we were getting ready to graduate. And I had to get her a job and pay for everything that a graduating senior would have to pay for out of my own money. So living under the same roof with the same person. So just, there was never a time where it was like, you know what? She adopted, she's got to care for us. I never considered that, ever.
Wow. Well, I know too, the hope in foster care is reunification with the birth parents, and obviously you stayed with the Nelson family and you got adopted. Like, did you even have the idea of knowing there's reunification as a potential with your mom? And did you get to see her? What was that like?
No. So my mother lost all parental rights, which is
Oh.
another reason why I think we got adopted. My mom wasn't even allowed to visit. So I learned later. So my mom did come back into my life. Thank God. She was clean, healthy, serving God, doing all the things. She was one of the best grandmothers you could ever ask for. So I barely saw my kids on the weekend. That's how much my mother had them. God rest her soul, because she was killed in 2001 in a car crash.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
But when we were in foster care, I found out from my mom, because one thing I am grateful for, that even though my mother is in heaven now, I got to ask all the questions you don't normally get to ask, or you're afraid to ask. I'll say that, because some people get reunified, or people come back in their lives, and whether it's bitterness or anger or whatever that's keeping them from asking the questions, or they just don't want to open the wound anymore, they don't ask. But I got to ask, why did you still get high? Why didn't you visit? What, like, all the things. So I knew she lost her parental rights. My mother thought she was bad enough to OD, but when she found out she wasn't, that's when she got her life together. Because she was like, I lost everything I wanted to live for, which was my kids. And then when y'all were gone, I thought, well, if I just kill myself, I don't have to worry about it. But she was like, when I wasn't brave enough to do it, I went ahead and got myself together. So I found all that out. But my mother used to stand on the corner of our street and watch us play in the backyard.
Whoa.
And I never knew it, because she wasn't allowed to like come. I was a track star, so she wasn't allowed to like see us on any level. But I happened to be, now that it's, no legalities or whatever, I found out my mom was at a track meet and when we won the West Side Championships. I heard somebody call me my biological nickname, and I knew only my biological family knew me by that name. And I'm like, it could be somebody else named Coco around here, but that voice and that sound of my aunt and my mom, and they happen to like just walk by and wave. But it's in a crowd,
Yeah.
they're like, nobody would know who they were waving at. And I was like, oh my God. But that was the only time I ever saw my mom in all those years. And fast forward to my stepmother passing away, me growing up, becoming a mom myself at 17, and graduating from high school on time with my class, never dropping out, never quitting, and raising a kid with a chronic disease. To be able to have my mother there present those years later, and it feel like we just picked up where we left off. It didn't feel like a major adjustment to bring her back into my world. And I think that speaks to the bond that we had prior to me going to foster care, was that my mother was like my best friend. And God being who he is to me, it just, when he says he will redeem the time, it was 8 years in the system, and I got 8 years back with my mother.
Wow.
And then she went to heaven. And those times were like, it sounds like a movie, it sounds like a fairy tale, it sounds like but it was, my mother would pick my kids up on Friday, and I wouldn't see them again until Monday after school, because she would take them to school Monday morning and everything, and I would work through the weekend, and then my kids would come home like, yeah, grandma said blah, 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 we doing this next week, and it was just everything. It was everything that I had prayed and asked for all those years, even though I didn't get it as a little girl. I got it as a woman and a mother, to see it given to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the blessing in my mom coming back into my life, and her helping me and my dad just, reconnect and have all the things we have now. Because now I can call, my mom is not around, but my mom and my dad, never married, but were in love literally until the day my mother died. So that's a whole other podcast.
You got a lot of different things for all different types of podcasts.
And that's why I tell people, like, when I was writing my book, I told my publisher, I'm like, I don't know where to stop at, because it's so much. She was like, well, you got about 4 or 5, maybe 6 more books based on the way you wrote the first one. So, and she working, pitching, it could possibly be a movie one day. So we shall see.
Wow.
We shall see.
Well, Niccole, I just want to acknowledge your mom's passing, and I'm sorry for your loss, because that's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful that you, like you said, you lost those 8 years, but then you got those precious 8 years back and got to see your mom help you with your own children. So just wanted to say that for you, just regarding your mom. Absolutely. We kind of touched base on this a little bit, just having this identity crisis, of course, with everything that you went through, the shame, feeling unworthy, so much more. As a child, and I guess mainly more as a teenager and young adult, how did those feelings about yourself affect your relationship with other people?
Well, like I stated before, that's when the people pleaser developed. But then on the other hand, that was when achievement developed as well, because we know that I'm actually working on a project right now for my clients that overachievement, I should say, can be a coping mechanism. So despite her not acknowledging whenever I did something right or whatever, I was getting accolades and everything from other people. So my efforts were being honored, just not at home. So at the time, I didn't see it as anything being impacted, but looking for love in all the wrong places and thinking that attention was love, I developed promiscuity, and then I guess so many pieces. I lost my virginity in my first foster home to somebody who was older than me. So in my first foster home, they would let former foster kids come back and visit. And one of them was a guy, and like I said, I was 12. He was over 18 and said all the right things and took my virginity. So, like I said, not knowing the difference of love and attention, well, this is what, I've been touched as a young kid. This person who took my virginity, this is what you do, right? This is what it means to have a relationship and be friends. And so I just thought, okay, this is what, we do, not knowing that had anything to do with self-worth, being valued, being included. Like I said, I was a track star. My coach thought I was phenomenal. I got scholarship offers, all the things. But my stepmother told me, no, I could not take any of those. And she would not let me accept any of the, I think it was 6 scholarships. And one of them was academic. And my coach literally came to my house and stood on my porch and begged her to let me take the opportunities. And she was like, we'll discuss it. But that meant no. She was just being polite because he was standing there. But yeah, so not really seeing myself in a negative light, because like I said, I was I worked at my school during the daytime, and then I was offered the opportunity to work as an admin youth secretary at night to pay for prom and school and all the other things that I needed to do. So I never saw myself as like, your self-esteem is impacted. Like, you don't have, you're insecure. I didn't see it that way because I'm popular. I got friends, so I never considered it that. And then growing up, becoming an adult and reflecting back on actions, thoughts, choices with men, people, it's like, well, you miss a little something there you might need to adjust. You're making choices with people that they're not physically harming you, but they don't really value you as much as you think they do. But you don't see that until you do the work to go inside, renovate all that crap that's been torn about and dilapidated. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. You don't really like me. You just like what I can do for you. Got it. Okay. Now I know. So I got to choose me in order to choose well. And that's when I just realized, like, okay, in my, early 20s, going into late 20s, mid 20s or whatever, you have to know your intention and their intention. And even if you never find out what their intentions are, what are your motives? Why are you friends with this person? Why are you engaging with these people? Why are you attending these events? Why are you exerting this behavior? And so that was just every time I did something, not that I got it right every time, but when I really sat and thought about things I was doing, that would be the series of questions I would just keep asking myself. What is my intention? Why am I choosing this? Why am I having this conversation? Why am I letting myself, what inside of me is screaming that I need this love or attention right now that I'm not dealing with? And so over time, it took some years. Yeah. And then sometimes you fall back in those patterns, or you develop a new pattern that you didn't even realize was connected to that worth. Because like I said, achievement I hadn't realized was a negative until I was well past my 30s and not knowing that was just me reaching for control and safety.
Yeah. Wow. I'm curious to know too, when you were offered these scholarships and your stepmom said, no, thank you, we'll pass. When you graduated high school, what was next? Because I know you had, well, go ahead. Yeah. Just tell me what was next after that.
Well, I was already a mom. So
yeah.
When my daughter was born in March, I graduated in June. The year that I graduated from high school. Yeah. So my daughter I walked across the stage and they held my daughter up in the stands as I graduated with my diploma. And she has sickle cell anemia. So imagine being 17, being physically, emotionally, and mentally abused, and raising a kid with a chronic blood disease and never being a mom before.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be a mom, period, first, a new mom. That's all in itself is a whole nother job. But all those other factors. So since I didn't get the opportunity to go to college, I thought, well, I'm going to go to the military. She can't stop me from going to the military. She couldn't stop me from going to college, but because I didn't know what my other options were for college. And I was still under her roof until she passed away. And then, like I said, I had my baby at 17. I want to say I was either 18 or 19 when she passed away. So maybe a year or two later, when she died, my brother looked up at me and was like, where are we going to live now? And I had never even considered that because her children could have been like, okay, y'all can get out. Y'all not really blood or whatever. Yeah. Thankfully, they did not. So I lived in one of the houses with my other siblings, and things just weren't going well. Like I had things in my name, utilities or whatever, and it was just like I was getting burdened with everything that was left. And I went to my daughter's godmother and was like, this is just not working. So I ended up moving in with her. And she helped me save to be able to move into my own place with my daughter and go from there. And I, at the time, was on assistance as a welfare mom. And just pretty much living. I started going to Henry Ford Community College to get a degree in psychology and just taking care of a young child, being young myself. And I was like, I don't know, what to do or what's next. But I'm like, this is not all that I want to do. I want more than this. but I wasn't really sure. But I had started some college, and then I ended up quitting, dropping out of college, and getting looking forward to getting some type of real secure job first to be able to take care of my kid, and then maybe going back to school. So yeah, after high school was, like I said, that was the time of me figuring out, okay, who do you really want to be? Like, you got this baby now. What are we gonna do? What are we really gonna do? And I just knew in my head, like, since I was a little girl, my dream, it looks very different now. Well, a little different, not very different, a little different. I didn't want to be married. I didn't want to have any kids. I just wanted to be wealthy and successful and change somebody else's life. But I ended up with a kid. Still didn't really want to be married at the time. But then, like I said, I was just really standing on my faith with all the changes that happened. I ended up dating somebody who, his mom introduced me to church and God and faith. And I was like, wait a minute, this sounds like the person who kept me through all the years that I was going through, all the other stuff I was going through. And just got more and more into my faith. And then that's when I started making decisions like, okay, I need to change a lot of things that's going on in my life and turning to God and just going within to see, who do you really want to be? Like, who do you want to show up in the world as? Because what everybody told you that you couldn't be, you already have exceeded that. You already beat the statistics. You're still here. You graduated from high school. You're going on to college. You still taking care of your kid. You're healthy. You're not on drugs. You're not selling your body. Like, all the things they told you would be, you're not. So what you going to do with that? And that's kind of just where the wheels started turning. And even though me and that person didn't end up together, holding on to that faith still stuck.
Hey everyone! Before we dive back in today's episode, I wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you for being here. If you're enjoying the More Than Your Age podcast and feel inspired by the stories we share, I have a small favor to ask. If you haven't already, please hit that follow button, that subscribe button on your podcast app. Following this show means you'll never miss an episode. Plus, it helps new listeners find us too. And while you're there, I'd be so grateful if you could just take a moment to leave a review. Reviews are one of the best ways to help the show grow. They let other listeners know what you're loving and give us a little boost in visibility. Plus, I really love reading your feedback. It inspires me and helps me create the best content and interviews for you. So thank you for being a part of this journey with me. Your support truly makes a difference. Now, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, that's huge. How old were you at this time?
About 19, 20.
Okay, so you're still pretty young. Yeah, okay. And, so you're introduced to faith. So that's, starting to transform the way you're thinking, the way you're choosing to live. You had your daughter. And then I know eventually at some point, homelessness happens. What happened here?
So that's like fast forward past a whole lot of stuff, because I was very grown and very adult and very full-time employed. I was the mother of 3 teenagers. And like I said, you lapse or you go back into behavior or things, or you think you got it figured out. And I thought I had it figured out. I'm like, well, my car breaks down, my daughter's sick. You'll just take the next paycheck. I worked for the Postal Service, so I was making very good money. And I was like, oh, I'll just take my next paycheck and buy a new car. But you also have to pay rent on the apartment that you live in while you're taking that paycheck to buy a car. And then you're not in control. To all the listeners, control is an illusion. I just want everybody to know that. And you don't know that you're going to get sick. So you think that next 2-week paycheck is coming, and you're like, I'll just make everything up with the next one, my budget. And then the budget is not there because you don't end up going back to work because now you're sick and now this happened. And it was like a snowball. And God was like, I've been trying to get your attention and you weren't listening. So here we go. And a transformer, I was getting some assistance with catching everything up and getting my car repaired and getting my apartment balance paid, and a transformer blew up at the assistance facility where where the electronic payment was supposed to go through. The transformer caught on fire, so no payments went through. Control is an illusion. I did everything I thought I was supposed to do. Pay my portion, give all the stuff, send this payment through. And God was like, I don't want you there anymore. And I've been telling you to leave and you won't leave. Because I can afford it. I can pay. I can do all the things. It's nice. I love the neighborhood. If I want you to move, I will move you, is what God said. And I ended up in a hotel in the same city for 3 years with 3 teenagers. Wow. My oldest daughter, who I had in high school, I have 2 daughters and 1 son. My son is in the middle. My oldest daughter went off to college as we were in this hotel. And then I had the other 2 teenagers. And like I said, just a series of unfortunate events, not because, I was doing things I wasn't supposed to do. It just is that you think you know best. And God is like, no, if you saying you're with me and I want you to do something else, I need you to do something else. And I fought tooth and nail not to come back to the city of Detroit. I was in a suburb of the state and loved it. And God was telling me to come back to the city. And I was like, I don't want to go back to the city. I don't want to live in the city. I want to live where I want to live. And I was like, no, that's just me, being, unfocused. No, I'm supposed to be in this area so I stayed in the hotel so my kids could graduate from better schools. And everywhere that I looked to try to find somewhere else to live, I got declined. Literally everywhere. I don't care how much deposit I had, how much application fee was. My income was a great, nice 5-figure salary, and it never worked. I got the house that I live in right now, no money, no application fee, no nothing. I didn't even have any money the day I went to go see it.
Wait, how did it happen then?
It was one of my employees at the time. He was an older gentleman. And I happened to be asking him about a house that he was having problems with. He had been telling us, around the office, like, these people keep breaking in and stealing my hot water tank. Another reason why I didn't want to come back to the city. They breaking in vacant houses and they taking my hot water tank and this. And I don't even want to talk about it. I'm like, I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. B. And he was like, yeah, but I got another house. Now, I never said I needed to move. I never said what was going on with me or nothing. And he's like, you should stop by and see it. And in my head, I'm like, I am not moving to that neighborhood. Because guess where it was? The neighborhood where I was a foster child.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll stop by before on my way to work, because I worked afternoons. He worked at midnights. And I go to the house. Now, mind you, Erica, I have what's called a vision book. And I had wrote in this vision book, matter of fact, I just looked at this 2 days ago. August, so that's how I know the dates. August 2017. No. August 2013. I write all these things down about the house. But that day, God said, no, go back and write it in present tense. I had wrote it in future tense. He's like, write it as if I have, not I want. I have a 3-bedroom home, 2-car garage, privacy fence. I wrote all these things down. Cameras around the house, hardwood floors, basement, office space for my business or whatever. Fast forward, so February 2014, I'm bawling, crying on the way home from work. And I'm like speaking in the spirit and all these things are happening. May 2014, I go see this house. It's across the street from the landlord. And he goes, come on, go so we can see it. I walk into hardwood floors, 3 bedrooms, full basement, 2-car garage, backyard, privacy fence, in the city.
Wow.
He said, well, let's go back across the street because my grandson is over there asleep. So we go back across the street. We sit down. He goes, do you like it? I'm like, yeah, I like it, but I don't really have any money saved right now. And he's like, I didn't ask you all that. Do you like it? And I go, yeah, I love it, actually. It's literally what I've been praying for. And he puts the keys up and goes, tell your kids y'all moving today. I burst into tears because I didn't even have the money to pay my hotel fee for the next week.
Wow.
And I had a whole house.
Did you have to do a down payment, or was he just like live here for free?
For probably a month, I didn't pay anything. And then my next couple of paychecks, I saved up and I did the security deposit and the first ones. And he was like, don't worry about it. You're fine. To this day, 10 years later, still the same person. My rent has never changed. If I'm on hard times, he gives me grace upon grace upon grace. And I have known a lot of angels, but this one is, all he missing is the wings. That's it. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. I have so many stories. My life is just, it's unreal. The way that God has his hand on my life. My aunt just told me this 2 days ago. She was like, you chosen. God has his hands on you. It's nothing that I haven't lived through that I can't say the presence of God is not there.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Nicole, when, because you can now look back and just see difficulty, God's hand, difficulty, God's hand, difficulty, and so on and so forth. Now, and you had a faith at this time too, but when you do go through a really hard moment now, when you can go back and reflect, how are you able to get through those now, knowing God's hand is all over your life?
Like anybody else, I'm human. Let's be clear. Like, you can cry, I just told my daughter yesterday, I said, God deserves the glory for it all. All meaning the wedding, the good money, the house, the food, the fun, and the pain, the suffering, the headache, all the chaos. But when you think about, it's a song that I like that it's called A Million Little Miracles. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even count them all. Because when I want to be upset, or when I want, and there are times, I mean, prior to this, for 2019 till 2020, the end of 2023, my daughter was dying, literally. Every week, a doctor was telling us, well, we're gonna do the best we can. We're gonna do the best we can. Well, and then it was other doctors were like, you should probably be looking at your right to life process and all the things. So when you say getting through things, it's like, you have never failed me. And even when his answer is no, it doesn't change that he's good. It really doesn't. It's just, that's not what you desire at the moment. Yeah. But that's what his will is. And I hold on to that. I even talked about this recently on my podcast and on a couple of lives that I've done on social media, that, what if, like, this domestic violence month, and it's a portion of my book, School Clothes, which is the story about me physically, literally in the house being molested. It literally is happening. And my stepmother slaps me instead of her son who was doing it, and tells me if I had been in bed, it would have never happened. Not that it shouldn't be happening at all. And I struggled initially with putting that in a book, because I was like, well, I don't even know how many family members know this or that or whatever. And I was like, you know what? It's not their truth to tell. And my publisher was like, well, Niccole, if they wanted it to be a better story, they would have behaved better. And you have a right to tell your experience the way you experienced it. And in that section, I talk about you have a right to consensual, intimate love, physical and otherwise. And you are not wrong because what happened to you is wrong.
Right.
And because of that's how I wanted to share it, that's why I shared it. Not because it's just my story and I got so much to say and tell, but somebody out there is believing that because these things happened to them, whether they were a child or an adult, or they thought it because your body is betraying you. Your body is responding to the thing that is happening to you the way the body is designed to respond. It's sex, whether consent was given or not. So your body is only responding to what the organs are supposed to do. And you may believe you did something wrong because maybe something felt pleasurable. And now you're like, wait, I'm not supposed to, this was not right. He's my whatever, or she's my whatever. But your body is telling you something else. So I wanted to share in that confusion of, but I wasn't supposed to do this. I wasn't supposed to, that it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. And so in sharing that story, that's how I look at a lot of things. Like, even if you made the bad choice, let's say it's self-betrayal, which is the worst betrayal. Once you can find a space to forgive yourself, God has already forgiven you. But once you can find a space to forgive yourself and trust yourself and be honest about where you are and where you want to be and who you want to be, you can move through it, faith or not. But if you add faith to it, now you know that no matter what, there's somebody who has your back and your front and wants you to be the best version of yourself. So as long as you stay focused on that, even when you stumble, even when you fail, the Bible says forgive a man 7 times 70. So, and God has already paid the cost for what's going on with you, both personally and professionally, however you want to do it. So once you hold on to that, that's your anchor. You got to have an anchor. I don't care what it is, who you believe in. I believe in Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit in the Trinity. But whatever you believe in, if you have an anchor, you can get through anything. What is your lightning rod? People say, what's your why? No, who is your anchor? Because your why can change.
Yep.
But even when your why changes, even when the plan changes, the goal does not. The plan changes, the goal does not. And with your anchor, when you get the flailing in the wind, when the rent is due, the baby is sick, and I was on a cane for 6 months, not knowing if I was going to ever work again, ever in life, not just that job, but any job, because my body was attacking itself, because the trauma had just all came to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
But I had an anchor. I still have an anchor. Mm-hmm. I haven't worked in a year. I quit my job in 2023 to go pursue whatever God wants me to do. And people were like, are you out of, you just 28 years? You just said no more? Deferred. I'm not even getting my retirement check yet. I deferred my annuity until I'm of age to actually officially retire. So I am, whatever I kill, I eat. That's where I'm at right now. But I still have an anchor. And if without that anchor, for your kid to have, we literally just found out she had a golf ball size blood clot in her artery. This was only a month ago.
Oh gosh.
So this smile is not fake. This joy is real, but you have to choose it every single day. Mm-hmm. Even when it's raggedy, even when it's hard, even when it's ugly, even when people are coming against you for no reason. I have lived all those things. Joy is a choice. And you have to choose. Not happy based on what's happening. Joy is something you choose. You reach for it. And the joy of the Lord literally is my strength. It's not just a scripture for me. I live that every single day because I made it. Even not in what people are looking for, $1 million, fancy car, fancy house. Do I want wealth? Absolutely. It will give me the resources to change more lives beyond my own. But I want people to know that feeling is the thing you're running after. And it's only if you choose joy and are anchored to something that will give you the strength to choose it. Mm-hmm. You can't just, it's not something you can just make up. You got to really want that. And it's a lot of people, unfortunately, that we know that have not been able to do that. Or there would be no suicide rate. Right. Or there would be no murder. Or everybody is hurting from something. I'm not special. I didn't just live through this stuff because, oh, she's so great. But you have to reach for certain things and want those things and be willing to look at the ugly. You cannot heal what you hide. And we're only leading from the last thing we healed. Whether it's your life, the boardroom, a job, a family. So you have to be willing to go in here, look at, like I said, all the dilapidated, deconstructed things that have happened or that's going on. Because we automatically just go to the head. As long as my mindset is good, I'm good. No, it's the heart that's really what you're holding in here that you haven't told anybody about, that you haven't let anybody see, that you don't want to give to anybody, that even your therapist might not even know yet. Mm-hmm. You might not even know that it's bleeding all over your life. Yeah. But once you get real about it, then you can have the joy you really want.
Man, Nicole, you just said, like, there are so many little things. I was like, oh, that was good. That was good. That was good. And then the main thing that I love the most is, your why. It's not about the why. It's the who, and who are you anchored in? That's huge. So much. Nicole, I'm like, okay, wait, I want to get to there, but then I'm looking at the time. So
when I told you in the email, I was like, I think I'm going to just give you this look.
Well, I wanted to kind of flash forward to, you had mentioned that you left your job, your postal service job, in 2023. So go ahead and share a little bit more where, you have this book. So I want you to talk a little more about the book, especially where people can find the book, share about your podcast and your YouTube channel. And then how are you making money now that, you left the job and you're trusting the Lord?
Yes. So, well, I mean, you can see it right there, but get a close up. This is my baby, my fourth baby, my book Bear, and it is about my life growing up in foster care and adoption, some of my poetry and some of the life lessons that God taught me along the way. Look, some of what I shared here. And I wrote it because I don't want people to feel alone. I don't want people to, it's like a guide to show people that it's possible. I know it hurts. I know, whether it might not be, adoption or foster care or a tragic story like mine. It might be divorce. It might be, you don't know what's next for you. You might feel like you could have done better with your life because it's a portion. Me being homeless is because I knew better and didn't do better. It's not necessarily just, tragedy or trauma. It could be, I just should have made some better choices. And even though I'm 50 or I'm 60 or I'm 70, I got some regrets that I wish I would have did differently. I wish I would have done better. Or I wish my kids could have saw a better example. Whatever it might be, I share and bear that all of us have something, whatever it is. And literally, if you get naked with the truth, you can heal. But if you don't, I'm literally nude on this cover. And because I really wanted the symbolism that I'm laying all my truth bare to God and the world, that you might have been promiscuous, you might have been hurt, you might have been molested, you might have been forgotten, you might have been abandoned. But what happened to you is not who you are. Mm. And that's just what I want other people to share on my podcast, Mirrored Experience, wherever you listen to podcasts like this one. I share more stories of that. We all want to be seen, heard, and valued, no matter our lived experiences. And that's what mirrored experience is about. We all should be seen, heard, and valued no matter what. And I, as you can hear, yes, I do share about my faith in God and how he plays a role in all that, because that is my number one priority, even before my kids. God is everything to me. And you don't have to believe in him to know you are loved and you are seen, heard, and valued. And then I'm coaching. I'm a trauma and leadership coach. So if you need somebody to talk these things through with to make a significant shift in your life, that's what I do with Clarity and Faith. I help you work through what is the mental block, what is the coping mechanism, what is the trigger, what is the thing that you either haven't brought into the light or you need to bring into the light, or why are you shrinking? Why are you hiding in plain sight? You know, my book is Bear, Wounds, Wisdom, and Worthiness, because that's what I overcame. My wounds, I got wisdom from it, and then I found my self-worth. And so that's what I help other people do, overcome mostly childhood trauma, but whatever trauma it is, whatever thing is holding you back from moving forward to the next step, is what I want to coach you through. So that's how I make money now. Writing, speaking. I'm definitely hoping to book more speaking engagements, professionally paid speaking engagements, prayerfully. So, but I got clients that I'm working things through with, and I would love to, have more clients to get people to a place where they can not only just experience the joy, but live life on their terms, because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Where are you able to find your clients?
Right now, I've been doing a lot of referrals. People are, some of my friends who know some people who need it. I just did a post on Instagram and Facebook yesterday where I'm taking, 5 clients right now. We're looking for 5 new clients that who just want that same support. So online is where I've been putting out most of my information, but a lot of it's been referrals.
Okay. Yeah, that's always the best way to get business.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, and then also at 51, you're getting your bachelor's degree too, right?
Yes. So all those years of no college, I am a college freshman at 51. So I'm getting my bachelor's in psychology. I am on the honor roll. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about it. Not because I just wanted a degree, but I felt that I could better serve my clients if I knew more about the mind and the body connection and how it works, and just give me a little more arsenal tools in my arsenal to help support people through the mental and physical and emotional parts of, because one of the things that I have a freebie from my newsletter that is teaching you on your full emotional vocabulary, because sometimes we know what we feel, but we don't know how to say what we feel or the language to use behind it. So it's more to it than sad, happy, mad, or glad. It's like embarrassment, shame, joy, elation. Like, what exactly is going on with you? Like, you're not just angry. What is the emotion behind the anger? Like, what is really the thing that you really want to express? And then you find out it's really embarrassment. It's not anger. You're upset about being embarrassed. You're not just upset. You're upset about something. You're disgusted because of this. But because we don't have the language, we can't fully express ourselves. And I told somebody recently, the 2 favorite ones is I love you and I miss you. We all want to hear them, but sometimes I love you sounds like a checked box for family. But if you say, Erica, I really value the way you come home and help me with the dishes while I'm working with the kids to do homework, so I feel seen, that you know that I need that support. That sounds better coming from your spouse than I love you. It's like, I literally see the things you're doing to show me that you love me. So when you have that language, it just deepens the bond that you have. And I miss you. This is the new thing that I'm telling people is I miss you. It's sweet. It is. Everybody loves to hear it. You want to be missed. You know that your presence is absence means something. But they could be missing a version of you that no longer exists. And then it's not so much of a compliment, because somebody recently told me they missed me, and the person that I was when they missed me doesn't exist anymore. I'm no longer that person. I don't do the things that I did with that person and that part of me that they miss. and sound like that's not a compliment that you miss me, because who I was when I was with you no longer is here.
That's good.
So when you can verbally express and have language for what you really feel, you can say what you mean and mean what you say. And that's what free guide is called. Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Awesome. Well, I can put that in the show notes too for people to check it out. And I like too that instead of just saying I love you or I miss you, it really allows the person who's speaking, you got to open up that dictionary, use that vocabulary, and really think instead of just like a blanket statement that's super easy for anybody to say.
Yeah, because what we don't do is be vulnerable. And if I could tell your listeners anything about the emotional part of the things that they need to do to heal, is the barriers is trust, vulnerability, and language. You got to rebuild trust, because once you're betrayed, or, if you live through the stuff I've lived through, forgiveness is huge. But then after you forgive, yes, I forgave what all that happened, because it wasn't for them, it was for me. But then you have to rebuild trust, and most of that trust is self-trust. Not everybody's always out projecting, because that's what my podcast is about, rejecting or projecting or reflecting to the world. Trust, rebuild it, be vulnerable. So then you can, once you're vulnerable and you see vulnerability as a strength, then you can put language to the thing that you're trying to express and or heal. So trust, vulnerability, and language is the key that I found so far. It's the barriers that people need to come to, but then it's also the key to unlock what you want to share with other people and express from yourself.
That's good. Well, Niccole, as we already talked about, there's so much more that we really didn't even get to dive in, and it's really hard to in just an hour. And I know we have your book, so people can learn a little bit more about you and then listen to your podcast, and then also the future books that your publisher said, hey, we gotta dig in a little bit more. So I'm excited to see what unfolds and what happens with you with that. I want to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests. So this will be my final question for you. So just, thinking about your life and thinking of just what you've gone through and how it's made you who you are today. So many women will use their life situations, their age, as a hindrance to block them from really chasing after the things that they want to do. If you could encourage one woman who does feel blocked or limited based on her age or a life circumstance, what would you say to her?
The one thing I would say, trust yourself. Trust yourself. It's really not the outside thing. It's not your age. It's not the thing that happened to you. It's what you believe about those things. You believe you're too old or too young. You believe that because X, Y, and Z, you shouldn't, or you couldn't, or you won't. But if you change your belief, because it's not what we say or do, it's what we believe that determines our life. So I would say trust yourself. Believe that you are capable. Believe and trust that you can do the thing that you're thinking you can't do. Because even your thoughts, you think 30,000, 50,000 thoughts a day? But your belief, what do you really believe? And when you lay all the things out, when you write it on a piece of paper and then say true or false, is this really true? Because feelings are not facts, but they are valid. Yeah. But when you write them all down, I'm 50 years old. I couldn't possibly. I'm 60 years old. There's no way I could. They did X, Y, and Z to me. But today, right now, you're safe. You're not harmed. You're not. And if you are, please, by all means, get out, seek help. But if there's no physical threat to your life at this time, write everything down and just true or false. Is it what you think or believe, or is it actually true? And if you just believe, I'm 50, I couldn't possibly, there's no way, I've been out of school 30 years. This is a limiting belief. Mm-hmm. And you can change that belief. I used to believe in unconditional love. It's not true. The only person that unconditionally loves you is God. There's terms and conditions that come with my love. Because you ain't going upside my head. You ain't stealing from me. So we do have terms and conditions on our love. But it's because I love you too much to let you stay the same. So I have to give you my boundaries because my boundaries keep me safe. Mm-hmm. And I believe I'm capable of getting this college degree. I believe I'm capable of serving God to the best of my ability and doing all he asked me in this earth. That's why I believed I could leave my job without a secondary plan in place and do what he's asking me to do. And that's what I'm doing right now, being on this podcast.
Love it. Niccole, what a testimony. I mean, seriously, thank you so much for just taking the time and just sharing a big part of your story and your heart and all the a million nuggets that I've just got myself that I know is going to impact and help so many other women. So, Niccole Nelson, thank you so much for joining me today on the More Than Your Age podcast.
Thank you, Erica. I had such a good time.
If you were encouraged by today's episode, like and subscribe to this podcast and share this episode with a friend. You can find me on Instagram at More Than Your Age and visit the More Than Your Age Facebook page. Keep striving for your goals, live fully, and we'll catch you next time on the More Than Your Age podcast.